1. This took place well over 20 years ago, but the memory of this night will be forever etched into my brain. Grab a drink, some popcorn, and get comfortable. This is kinda long. After I got out of the army, I ended up in a small town in western North Carolina. After quitting a few jobs just because I could, started working for a small, locally owned convenience store chain we'll call Slow and Stale. After a few months, I was promoted to assistant manager. The hours sucked, and the pay was worse. I was making $5 an hour as assistant manager. Of course, this was when minimum wage was $4.25. This store couldn't keep employees. The turnover rate was unreal. I was putting in almost 100-hour weeks for months. I was drained. I was taking no-dose pills to stay awake and sleeping pills to sleep. My body was so confused as to when it needed to be up or when it could sleep. This was worse than anything I had ever experienced in the US Army. After being out of the Army for almost a year, I decided I missed it and went into active reserves, serving 1 weekend a month and a 2-week active duty summer training. The unit I transferred into was a unit of drill sergeants. Yep, I was going to be a drill sergeant and had been doing the training for it. So finally, a person is hired and makes it through the training. I'm finally able to schedule a night off. I make arrangements for my girl to come over. Went and got a six-pack and was looking forward to a night off. About 10:30 p.m., I had taken a long pool, phone rings. I knew better than to answer it, but did anyway. Hello? G, the owner of the store, is on the other end. I need you to come in for a third shift. Dude quit, it isn't coming in. I can't, I just opened a beer. Well, it's your first one, right? Yeah, but that's beside the point. The point is, I'm drinking. I don't want to drive now. I really need you to cover this shift. I can't. I'm drinking. And this is the first night off I've had in months. Why can't you cover it? Well, Tommy quit at a store in the neighboring town, and I have to pull a third shift there. Need to find someone else, G. I can't. There isn't anyone else. I need you here at 11. Just don't finish your beer and get here. He hung up. Fuck. Now I'm pissed off. Furiously, I changed clothes and stomped out to my car. I lived a fair distance from the store and got there about 5 minutes after 11. I went in, did a quick drawer count so the second shift person could leave. This town was a lot of textile mills that ran 3 shifts too, and it's shift change time for them as well. The store was slammed with customers getting off work and heading home. This rush lasted for a little over 30 minutes. Finally, the last customer leaves, and I leaned on the register and took a breath. Phew. It's about 10:40 p.m. now. In walked a guy holding his crotch area. That was not an uncommon sight in that area, so I thought nothing of it. He walked up to the register. I want something, man. Thinking he wanted a pack of smokes. Yeah, what's that? He pulled a revolver from his pants. Money. I backed slowly away from the register, hands out a bit to my sides, gestured to the register. Well, there it is, help yourself. He looked at me with major attitude. Open the register. Instant rage coursed through me. The military teaches you to channel your fear into anger. And I went into drill sergeant mode. Fuck you, you want this shit? Come around here and get it yourself. I glanced down beside me, where a baseball bat leaned up against the drop safe. I wondered if I'd have enough time to grab the bat and hit him before he could shoot me. He started jerking the revolver around, and I tried to look into the chambers to see if it was loaded. Open the fucking register. Do you want me to repeat what I said? Don't make me put one through you. I'll put one through you, man. Open it. I stared at him coldly and roared, Motherfucker, either use your goddamn little toy or I'm gonna take it away from you and shove it up your fat ass. He stared at me in disbelief for a few seconds, then stuffed his gun back in his pants and ran out the door. I immediately grabbed the phone and called 911 to report the robbery attempt. Then the nerves hit me as I thought, what the fuck did I just do? I was shaking like a leaf when another employee came in. I told him the guy that just left tried to rob me, and he took off out the door chasing the guy. He came back a few minutes later, and I told him to hold the door shut until the police arrived. I couldn't find the keys to lock up. I called G at the other store. Slow and Stale, this is G. How may I help you? Just had an attempted armed robbery, G. How much did they get? I am fine, by the way, thanks for asking. and I didn't let them get a thing. Cops are on the way.
You are going to finish out the shift, right?
I'm going to finish with the cops. Then I'm locking the door, leaving the keys at the police department. Then I'm taking 3 days off to decide if I'm coming back. I hang up the phone. Police arrived, dusted for prints, and did their thing. It turned out the security camera was not working at that time. Then the police got a call from the police of a neighboring town. They had a person in custody. He tried to rob a convenience store there. I got a high-speed ride to the neighboring town to identify the robber, same guy. I did take my 3 days off, then I demanded to be moved to another store in the same town, away from the bad neighborhood. I quit soon after, and went to work at a different store in the same town. 2. This is an old story from about 20 years or so ago. I stopped at a Costco on the way home from work. I just came in looking for some electronics and whatnot, so wasn't pushing a cart. And while in the electronics section, this older woman sees me looking over some item, and I can see she's interested in an item shelved near the one I'm looking at. I don't even remember what the items were. Anyway, she turns and asks me some very specific question about the item she's looking at. I look up at her and simply answered, "Sorry, I have no idea." A few minutes later, at the other end of the same aisle, this lady comes up to me with some other item in her hands and asks me, "Do you know?" Again, it was an item that I had no idea about. At this point, I'm mildly annoyed and just answered, "Nope," and turned to go browse the next aisle over. It's worthwhile, I think, at this point in the story to explain that I was working in northern New Jersey, basically a suburb of New York City, in a fairly stressful job, and one of the reasons I had even stopped at Costco was that my 12-mile ride home was mired in terrible traffic. Rather than spend the next 30 minutes trying to go the last 6 miles home, I pulled into the Costco I was about to crawl past, figuring I'd do a little shopping and let some of the traffic clear out while I did so. So I started this whole experience wound up a little tightly. On top of that, this was when I was in my early 30s or late 20s, and I was a pretty big D-bag back then. I have mellowed since, and partly due to this experience. Anyway, moving on. 5 minutes later, I'm nerding out over whatever thing I was looking at in the next aisle, and the woman comes around the corner from the aisle where I'd left her, specifically walking past other customers to come to me to ask a third question about something that I had no idea about. Now I'm pretty annoyed. It's clear to me that she is not flirting with me or anything like that, and I cannot understand why she keeps coming to bug me about these things when all I want to do is just waste a few minutes out of traffic. In all honesty, if I had any answers for her, I would likely have given them to her, but I didn't have those answers. I reply to her question, I give her a shitty look, and in a very condescending voice said, "I have no idea, but maybe you ought to ask someone who works here." I made an overly dramatic gesture with my hands pointing towards one of the employees rounding the corner at the edge of the electronics section, about 20 feet away. The woman looked at me, somewhat offended, and didn't say another word. I didn't give a damn. Why couldn't this woman leave me to my nerding out? I left the electronics section and wandered off, and after another 20 or so minutes of walking around, just avoiding traffic, picked up some grocery items or other and walked to the cashier line to pay for it. As my turn came up to pay, I pulled out my wallet, looking for my membership card, and I could not find it. I knew I had to show it to get into the store, and quickly checked all my pants' pockets. No card. The cashier smiles at me and points to my chest. I looked where she was pointing, and in a split second, I realized, maybe not for the first time ever, that I was a giant a-hole. So my employer had access control in all buildings, and you scanned your employee ID card at the doorway of any of these buildings to enter. Employees were obliged to display their IDs at all times while on work property. Many people wore the badge attached to one of those retractable cords that you clip to your belt. Some wore their badge on a loop or a ribbon around their neck, and others, like myself, wore their badge in a transparent pouch that was designed to go clip onto a shirt or jacket pocket. My employer also required business attire, so on my way home from work, I was dressed in leather-soled shoes, pleated dress pants, a white button-down shirt, and a tie. Left the jacket in the car for the trip into Costco. Apparently, I also left my work ID badge holder still clipped to my shirt pocket. At that point in time, it would not have been unusual for me to go in and out of buildings at work a dozen or more times on any given day. After a year or so, it had become a well-practiced and unthinking motion for me to grab my work ID from the badge holder, then held it to my shirt pocket, flash it to the door sensor, and just slip it back into the pocket on the holder as I entered the building. Apparently, when I pulled my Costco ID out of my wallet to get into the store, I unthinkingly placed it in the badge holder, since I had forgotten to take that off and leave it in my car with my jacket, instead of back into my wallet. I'd been walking around the store looking like a manager with a badge displaying the Costco logo prominently in bright red colors right on my chest. As all of this realization came to me in the second or two after the cashier pointed at my Costco ID card I was wearing, my face went a little pale and she asked me if I was okay. I mumbled something about feeling dumb and this being a habit from work as I paid for my stuff. I hurried out of the store, hoping I didn't see the woman who had been asking me questions. It began to dawn on me that if I weren't such a d-bag coward, I'd go and find that woman, explain to her what happened, and apologize to her for being so rude. Instead, I just left the store in shame, feeling about 2 inches tall. 3. I used to work close shifts at a certain fast food restaurant, think gold and the letter after L. In a remote location, remote in that there was not another just down the road. This shift normally consisted of a mad dash around dinner and then nothing but the occasional drunk until closing. I was working drive-through this particular night, which also meant I was closest to the office phone and would take calls. I honestly don't remember this woman ordering, but I sure as hell remember what followed. It was about 2 hours after closing, and the dinner rush was long over when this call came in. This was a while ago, so I cannot remember the exact dialogue, but it's fairly close. The phone rings. This is OP from Clownshoe's Burgers. How may I help you?
You can explain to me why I've got a bag of cold, ruined food and crying kids.
I'm sorry?
I just brought dinner home for my children from your drive-thru, and it is cold. I promised my children tonight, and you've ruined it for them. What am I supposed to do now? What kind of establishment is this?
She went on like this for a few minutes, and I listened, initially sympathizing with her, since food can sit in the ready tray for a while before getting bagged, and while we do prioritize drive-thru, they can get food that has been sitting a while. I figured I'd let her vent, and then give her the standard response. Finally, she stopped for breath, and I said, I'm very sorry about that. If we're particularly busy, then the food can get cold while we sort other orders. If you want to come in, then we can replace the food free of charge.
First of all, I was in and out of drive-thru in a few minutes, so the ruined food is on you. Second, I cannot come in and get more. I live 45 minutes from town.
My sympathy evaporated. I'm sorry, so where was the food when you drove home?
On my car seat.
For 45 minutes?
Yes.
You are aware that our food only has a 20-minute shelf life?
It was bagged. I expect it to be warm.
We only have paper bags. They don't keep the food insulated.
I don't care. I expect hot food and a higher quality of service. I want a refund, and
I hung up. I wish I could say that she was at our doors screaming 45 minutes later, but nothing else came of it. My manager told me not to worry, and we had a good laugh about it. I have other stories from my time there, but that was my only customer whose entitlement extended to the laws of thermodynamics. 4. In the US, there's a popular chain of coffee houses with many locations, including one in the small town I reside in. I am going to refer to this company as XCO, because I really like their products, and the vast majority of their workers are nice folks. However, the woman who was XCO's district manager for the shops in the general area in which I live, when my town's location initially opened, was a real piece of work. One afternoon, whilst shopping at a nearby business, I noticed that there was an electrician working at XCO who was parked in the shop's one handicap spot, but did not have a permit displayed. This is one of my pet hates, so I went on in to say something, and I was polite in my tone and body language the entire time I was there. I went to the counter to speak to the highest-ranking XO worker, and the DM immediately stepped up. I requested that the electrician go out and display his handicap permit if he had one, or remove his vehicle if he did not possess one. By the way, it was very clear throughout that the electrician was pretending not to hear what was going on. The DM shrieked, "We've got it under control!" My response was, "Oh? So you're going to instruct the electrician to move his vehicle if he does not have a handicap permit?" The DM again, in a shrieky tone, said, "Never you mind." I began walking to the door, whilst calling out over my shoulder, "Okay, so I guess I am calling the law." To which the DM bellowed, I kid you not, "Fucking do it!" I'd left my mobile at home, but when I got home, I followed through with calling the law. The dispatcher was absolutely appalled by the DM's behavior, and promised to flag the situation as being more urgent than she normally would. The next time I went in to make a purchase, it just so happened that the DM was there again. I strongly suspect from DM's behavior that I caused her to get in trouble, because she scowled at me when she noticed I was there, and when she found out that I'd ordered hot chocolate with fat-free milk and whipped cream, she scowled at me again and shouted at me. "You know the whipped cream's not fat-free, right?" I simply smiled and very politely replied, "I did know that, but thank you just the same for letting me know." DM seemed disappointed and surprised that I didn't yell back, which is rather confusing to me. 5. So back in college, I lost my job due to my school schedule conflicting with the hours my boss demanded I should work. It was holiday season, so I decided my best bet would be to find a retailer that was looking for seasonal staff and look for another job in the meantime. I end up finding a very popular bath and body store in the mall that's hiring. You know the one. First few weeks, everything is fine. I'm getting the hang of it. I know the product's well, the discount is great, and I haven't got any real wild Karen incidents. Until Black Friday. Black Friday, I get scheduled a 12-hour register shift. Not the worst thing I could be doing for 12 hours. Most people were pretty pleasant and just excited to get holiday shopping underway. You Karen. The location I worked at was just over the border into the States from Canada. She immediately comes up to the register with probably easily $400 in merchandise and slams it down in front of me. I tried to remain pleasant and asked her if she found everything okay and if she needed anything wrapped. This was the conversation. "Alright, so we're looking to wrap all this up today?" "Well, that's your job, isn't it? Am I supposed to wrap it myself?" "No, ma'am, but sometimes people put these into other gifts, so they don't always want them wrapped." "Are all the same scents going together and being wrapped, or is there another way you'd like them separated?" "Are you actually a fire extinguisher?" She didn't say fire extinguisher. She used a naughty word. It starts with R, and absolute puppy heads use. Sorry for the harsh language. "Just wrap them." "Yes, ma'am, I'll get right on that as soon as we complete the transaction." I gave her total. "Would you be paying cash or card today?" "Card. Did you put my discount in for coming from Canada?" "I'm sorry? We don't offer a discount for Canadian shoppers. I do apologize." "You're lying. I always get a discount for being from Canada." "Let me call over my manager and confirm that I didn't make a mistake. Give me one moment." I call over the headset and my manager tells me that's never been a thing. "I'm sorry, but I spoke to my manager and we have not ever, nor are we offering a discount for Canadian shoppers." "I do apologize for the confusion there." Fine. Just run my card and do something useful." "Okay, ma'am, just go ahead and slide your card for me, and then we'll get this all wrapped up." Card declines. "I'm sorry, ma'am, do you have another form of payment? It says the card was declined." "What did you say? How the fuck do you expect me to hear you over these people? Speak up!" "Your card declined. Do you have another form of payment?" "You really need to announce that to the entire line? Fuck you can take all this shit back." Karen then proceeded to pick up a lotion bottle, one of the glass spa ones, and whip it at my head. That one got her escorted out of the mall and banned by security. I, on the other hand, was fine. Took off my apron and walked out. The money was so not worth it. Here's your gentle reminder not to be a dick to retail workers this holiday season. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Adventures in Fast Food and Retail, episode 143. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use and sent in stories for use in this video. Alright, I have a birthday shout out to do. I thought it was 2, but it looks like it's only 1. I think, let me double check. First birthday shout out goes to Kelly. Kelly is 53 years young. Their birthday was yesterday. And I hope you had a lovely birthday, Kelly. I hope you had plenty of time to celebrate. And if you were too busy, then please do make time later in the week. And before we go, I would like to sing happy birthday to you. Sorry, my voice is a little rough today, rather annoyingly, but we'll do our bestest. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kelly. Happy birthday to you. That wasn't too bad, actually. Yeah. Right, and with that, I think I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.